which means that you don't, by and large, have decades upon decades upon decades in which you suffer radical climate change. By and large, at least 2 or 3 of the, if you look at most recent 100,000 years, 2 or 3 of the most severe ice ages happen in a short space of time. The flip back to warm periods happen again in 7 or 8 years. So, and this can only happen because of these things, positive feedbacks. Because you reach a stage, you cross a threshold, where you get to a point where the change that comes immediately after that you have no control over. We have control to some extent over the CO2 we're emitting now. We won't have any control over CO2 if the oceans begin emitting CO2, which is entirely possible. As a sink, the ocean may reach a stage where instead of absorbing CO2, it may start emitting it. And the same goes with methane in the Arctic and in the permafrost. You may get to a stage where methane is emitting itself, it's coming out because we've unfrozen the Arctic. So all these things again pose a huge question mark for what we're going to do, not, as I said, in generations to come, but in the next 5 and 10 years. And I want briefly now to look at what are the people who rule us, what are the ruling class, what are they saying, or what are they doing, what have they been doing. Now, what I've just outlined to you, I've only mentioned 2 reports. This stuff isn't new. There's nothing new in the IPCC report. There's nothing new in the Stern report, the Pentagon report that went before this. The science of this has been known for years, and obviously the science has been denied to some extent by a lot of people. But a lot of people in the ruling circles of our societies have been very concerned, are very concerned, and have tried. You know, we can obviously be sceptical about the manner in which they've tried, but I think they have tried to some extent, genuinely on their own terms, to try to do something about it. I want to discuss briefly what they've done, what they've actually tried to do about it over the last 10 or 15 years. And the 3 planks of most of the ruling class efforts, because as I said, most of them know that we're facing extinction level events here. They know that the climate, that their children, their grandchildren depend upon the same climate as the rest of us do. And some elements have been pushing to try and stop what's going on. And I want to look briefly at the 3 ways in which they've done it. One is through what's called carbon trading. The other is through geoengineering. And the last one is through clean development mechanism. And they're all tied in. I'm just briefly going through them. Because for the last 10, 15 years, Europe especially has been seen as being the forefront of carbon trade. And carbon trade is very simple. In theory, very simple idea. If you have to do 4th year economics at any university, you will find that they talk about externalities, and they say carbon emissions are an externality. Therefore, what do you do with it? Well, as we all know, the free market is the best way to deal with these things. So what you do is you put a price on the emission of carbon, and you then add that as a tax. And hey, presto, you solve it. Or perhaps you allow a certain amount of carbon to be emitted, and you produce permits for that, and you give permits to individual companies. And once they exceed those permits, you either have to sell them on or buy them. As we all know, that's going to work. That's the way free market works. Free market is the most efficient way of doing these things, so that's how it works. Well, we tried this, and Europe, by and large, Europe is the most progressive at doing it. It has the European trading system in carbon. It's been up now only 10 years. In 2005 it started off. A complete and absolute farce. Now, this is during the boom. It started off by over-allocating permits to big polluters. And then, in the midst of that, some of the biggest polluters in Europe found that they had a windfall because of this. They were able to cash these permits in and make literally hundreds of millions overnight. That didn't work. But more importantly, you might, a lot of the NGOs, people involved in climate change, say, well, okay, they made windfall profits. But the proof of the pudding, did it reduce CO2 emissions? Did it what? No, it didn't reduce CO2 emissions the slightest. This year, in January this year, the European Commission had to stop trade in CO2 because of widespread fraud and corruption. Now, who would have guessed that in a free market you can get fraud and corruption? I mean, clearly they haven't been coming to Marxism for too many years. But the idea, even more so, putting the entire future of the planet at the hands and at the behests of a market system which has given us what we've known for the last 20, 30 years. The idea of putting the future of the planet in the hands of a market seems to be extraordinary to do, extraordinarily stupid thing to do. But at the moment, far from learning the lessons of it, you still get economists, you still get the governments involved saying, well, we just need to tweak it a little bit. Yes, they're happy in problems, we need to tweak it. So Australia, for example, is now launching its own carbon trade, its own market. California, Schwarzenegger apparently now is the saviour of the human race. Not just Terminator. He actually is the saviour of the human race because he's brought the 3rd biggest economy in the world into a sort of carbon trading market. Now, we can confidently predict, as somebody who was not an expert in economics, I can confidently predict that none of these schemes are going to work. Not the slightest. They will not reduce CO2. They haven't done so far, and they're not going to do in the future. What trading schemes do is they're very good at one thing. They're very good at generating profits. They are not very good at cutting CO2. And when you look at the scale of what we need to do as a society, collectively, the scale of what we actually need to do in terms of pulling back CO2 emissions, they haven't even got the ambition for it. They're not even saying they can do